Be me, 28, living in Brooklyn, supposedly living my best life. Independent, sex positive, knows her worth, all the things my Instagram bio implies. I had my own apartment, a decent job, and a friend group that met for brunch every Sunday to dissect our dating disasters. That's where this whole thing started falling apart, actually. At brunch. Melissa was scrolling through her phone when she suddenly gasped and shoved it in my face. "Oh my God, did you see this?" I looked at the screen. Derek's engagement announcement. Derek, my ex of a year and a half, the guy who'd needed space to work on himself 8 months ago, only to apparently work on himself directly into someone else's bed. And now, he was engaged. To her. The girl he had probably been seeing while we were still together. The photo was nauseating, her hand prominently displayed with a ring that probably cost more than my rent, both of them looking stupidly happy in front of some mountain at sunset. The caption, "She said yes. Can't wait to spend forever with my best friend?" "That's fucking insane," Jenna said, leaning over to look. "Didn't you guys just break up?" 8 months ago, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My drink suddenly tasted sour. 8 months, and he's engaged. Melissa shook her head. Men are trash. I wanted to disagree on principle. I didn't like generalizations, even when I was hurt. But in that moment, it felt true. I'd spent a year and a half investing in someone who clearly hadn't been investing back. And the worst part? I'd ignored so many red flags because I didn't want to be that girlfriend who was suspicious or controlling. "You know what you need to do," Jenna said, her eyes lighting up with an idea I already knew I'd hate. "You need to show up at Amanda's wedding looking absolutely fire with someone hot." Amanda's wedding. Right. Our mutual friend from college, getting married in 3 weeks. Derek would definitely be there. He'd been friends with Amanda's fiancé since high school. "I'm not going," I said immediately. "You have to go," Melissa countered. "If you don't show up, it looks like you're hiding. Like he won. This isn't a competition." "Everything is a competition," Jenna said matter-of-factly. "Especially with exes. You need to walk in there with someone who makes him realize what a massive mistake he made." I picked at my eggs Benedict, trying to ignore the spike of anxiety in my chest. The idea of seeing Derek happy, engaged, moved on. While I was still swiping through Hinge profiles of guys whose opening line was "hey," made me feel physically ill. "I don't even have anyone to bring," I muttered. "What about Michael?" Melissa asked. I looked up. "Michael?" "Yeah, your best friend Michael. He's cute, he photographs well, and he literally knows Derek so it would sting extra." I laughed, but even as I did, my brain started turning. Michael. God, I hadn't even thought about him that way. Not in that capacity, at least. He was just Michael. My person. The guy who'd been there for everything since junior year of college, when we'd both ended up in the same terrible Shakespeare seminar. "Michael and I aren't like that," I said. "So, does Derek need to know that?" Jenna grinned. "Just saying. 2 birds, 1 stone. You get a date, you make Derek jealous, everyone wins." I stirred my drink, watching the orange juice swirl into the champagne. Michael would probably say yes. He always said yes when I needed something. He'd helped me move apartments twice, once in the middle of a summer heat wave when I'd broken up with Tyler and needed to get out of our shared lease, and again 6 months ago when I'd upgraded to a 1-bedroom in Park Slope. He'd picked me up from bad dates in Manhattan at midnight. He'd listened to me cry about Derek more times than I could count. And the thing was, he never complained. Never made me feel like I was asking too much. That's what made him such a good friend. He just showed up. No questions asked. "I'll think about it," I said, which was basically me deciding I was going to do it, but wanting to seem less calculating about it. The truth was, Michael and I had a thing in college where he'd maybe had feelings for me. Junior year, after a party, he'd sort of implied something. Nothing direct, just "I think you're really amazing," followed by meaningful eye contact that I'd pretended not to notice. I gently redirected the conversation, mentioned the guy I was seeing at the time, and we'd moved past it. That was 7 years ago. Ancient history. Since then, we'd fallen into this comfortable rhythm. Tuesday coffee catch-ups where we'd debrief our weeks. Him being my +1 when I was between relationships, me calling him when I needed advice, or just someone to vent to, or when I'd had too much wine and needed to talk through whether I should text an ex. Except now that I thought about it, we hadn't done Tuesday coffee in a few weeks. 3 weeks, actually. I'd noticed but assumed he was busy with work. Michael was a software engineer at some startup in Midtown. They were probably in crunch mode or whatever. I pulled out my phone and opened our text thread. My last message was from 4 days ago. OMG, you won't believe what happened on my date last night. He'd responded with, "Tell me," and I'd launched into a paragraph about how the guy had spent the entire dinner talking about his ex-girlfriend, then asked to split the bill after ordering the most expensive wine. Before that, me asking if he could help me figure out why my laptop was running slow. Before that, me venting about a fight with my mom. Before that, me asking if he wanted to get drinks, then cancelling because Marcus, this guy I'd been seeing for 3 weeks, had suddenly texted. Looking at it laid out like that, it was a lot of me talking. But that's what friends did, right? They shared their lives. I typed out a message. "Hey, want to grab coffee this week? Feels like forever since we caught up." He responded within a minute. "Yeah, sure. Wednesday work. Not Tuesday. Interesting. But whatever. Wednesday was fine." "Okay," I said, looking back up at Melissa and Jenna. "I'll ask him." Wednesday afternoon, I met Michael at our usual spot, this cafe in Chelsea that we'd been going to since it opened 3 years ago. They knew our orders by heart. Oat milk, latte for me, black coffee for him. He was already sitting at our corner table when I arrived, and I noticed immediately that something felt different. Not bad necessarily, just off. He smiled when he saw me, stood to hug me like always, but there was a distance in it. Mechanical. "Hey," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "How've you been? Feels like it's been forever?" "I've been good. Busy with work." His coffee sat in front of him, untouched. Michael always drank his coffee immediately, claimed it was only good in the first 5 minutes. The fact that it was just sitting there felt wrong. "So listen," I started, deciding to just jump in. "I need a favor, but it's actually kind of fun." He raised his eyebrows. "Okay. Amanda's wedding is in 3 weeks, and I need a +1. But here's the thing. Derek's going to be there with his new fiancée." I rolled my eyes for emphasis. "Can you believe he got engaged? After 8 months?" "I heard," Michael said quietly. "Right. So anyway, I was thinking, and hear me out. What if you came as my date? Not like a real date," I added quickly. "But like, we just go together, have fun, open bar situation, and Derek would see that I've moved on too." I waited for him to smile, to make a joke, to say something like, "Sure, sounds fun," the way he always did. Instead, he just looked at me for a long moment. "I don't think that's a good idea," he finally said. I blinked. "What? Why not?" "I'm just not interested in doing something like that." "Like what? Going to a wedding?" I laughed, trying to lighten whatever weird mood this was. "Come on, it'll be fun. You don't even have to pretend that much. Just be there, look good in a suit, which you do, and I'll handle the rest." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" I was starting to feel defensive now, though I wasn't sure why. "You're always there for me. It's just one night." Something flickered across his face at that. "You're always there for me," but it was gone before I could identify it. "I'm not going to pretend to be your boyfriend so you can make another guy jealous," he said, his voice measured but firm. "I'm done doing things like that." The word "done" stuck in my ears like a record scratch. "Done?" I repeated. "What does that mean?" He sighed, running his hand through his hair. It means exactly what it sounds like. You're being weird, I said, trying for playful but landing somewhere closer to annoyed. It's not that serious. I'm just asking for help. That's what friends do. Is it? He finally picked up his coffee, took a sip, then set it back down. Friends help each other. Yes, I said, confused why this was even a question. Obviously. When's the last time you helped me with something? The question hit like cold water. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Tried to think of an example. There had to be something. I'd been there for him. I was a good friend. We talked all the time. Except we didn't talk all the time, did we? We talked when I needed to talk, when I needed advice or support or someone to listen. That's not fair, I said finally. You know I'd help you if you asked. I asked you to come to my sister's graduation last month. Oh God, Sarah's graduation. I'd completely forgotten. He'd mentioned it, texted me the details, asked if I wanted to come to the family dinner after. And I'd said, I had a date, I said quietly, the memory flooding back. Some guy from Hinge. Second date. We'd gone to an Italian place in the West Village, and he'd spent the whole time talking about his CrossFit routine. I hadn't even texted Michael afterward to ask how it went. Right, Michael said. You had a date. Okay, but that was one time. It wasn't one time. He wasn't angry. That was somehow worse. He was just tired. It's been the pattern for a long time. I just finally noticed it. Pattern? My voice came out sharper than I intended. What pattern? You call me when you need something. Someone to vent to. Someone to help you move. Someone to pick you up when a date goes bad. And I show up. I always show up. He paused. But the second you don't need me anymore, when you're dating someone new, when things are good, I don't hear from you. That's not true, I said automatically, but even as the words left my mouth, I wasn't sure. Was it true? I thought back to when I was with Derek. Had I texted Michael as much? Called him? No, I hadn't. Because I'd been busy. Because I'd had Derek. And the thing is, Michael continued, I'm not even saying you did it on purpose. I don't think you're malicious. I think you genuinely don't see it. See what? I was starting to feel attacked now, cornered. This was supposed to be a simple conversation. Ask him to the wedding. He'd say yes. We'd figure out the details. This wasn't supposed to turn into whatever this was. That our friendship has been one-sided for a really long time. That's ridiculous. My hands were shaking slightly. I pressed them flat against the table. I've never used you, Michael. You're making me sound like some terrible person. I'm not saying you're terrible, he said quietly. I'm saying I can't do this anymore. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too warm. I could hear the espresso machine hissing, someone laughing at another table, indie music playing from the speakers. Everything felt too loud. So what? I said, my voice rising just slightly. You've just been keeping score this whole time. That's not what friendship is about. I'm not keeping score. I'm just finally being honest about what this has been. Which is what exactly? He looked at me for a long moment. Me being available whenever you needed me, and you needing me only when it was convenient. I wanted to argue, to pull out examples of the times I'd been there for him, times I'd been a good friend. But my mind kept coming up blank, cycling through memories that all seemed to center around me. My problems, my life, my drama. I literally introduced you to half your friend group, I said, grasping for something. I invited you to my family's Thanksgiving last year. I'm always liking your Instagram posts and commenting supportive things. The words sounded weak, even as I said them. You introduced me to people 7 years ago, freshman year, Michael said. You invited me to Thanksgiving because you didn't want to be the only single person there, and your mom kept asking if you were bringing someone. And you like my posts? Okay. Each word landed like a small puncture. I felt my argument deflating. So what, you've just been secretly resenting me this whole time? I tried for indignant, but landed somewhere closer to desperate. That's so passive-aggressive. I wasn't resenting you, he said. I was hoping things would change. That hit different, softer, somehow more painful. Change how? He looked down at his coffee. That I'd be more than just the person you called when you were upset. That maybe you'd think about me when things were good too. Oh no. Michael, I started, but didn't know how to finish. The junior year thing, the feelings I'd thought were ancient history, suddenly didn't feel so ancient. It's fine, he said quickly. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty or to try to change your mind about anything. I'm just done being in a friendship where I only matter when you need something. That's not what this is, I said, but my voice sounded hollow. Then what is it? I tried to think, tried to remember the last time I'd asked him about his life, really asked, not just a casual, how's work, before launching into my own problems. Tried to remember the last time I'd been there for him the way he'd been there for me. The $400. God, the $400. I'd borrowed it 6 months ago, told him I needed it for an emergency. Really, I'd used it to buy concert tickets for Marcus and me. Marcus, who I'd stopped seeing 3 weeks later when he'd told me he wasn't looking for anything serious. I'd never paid Michael back, kept meaning to Venmo him, but then I'd forget, and he'd never mentioned it. You borrowed money from me 6 months ago, Michael said, like he could read my mind. $400, you said it was an emergency. My face went hot. I was going to pay you back. Things have just been tight. It's not about the money. Then what is it about? My voice came out louder than I meant it to. A couple at the next table glanced over. Michael was quiet for a moment. Then, you've spent years telling me about guys who treat you like you're disposable, and the whole time you've been treating me exactly the same way. The words hit like a slap. I opened my mouth to argue, but nothing came out. The difference is, he continued, those guys didn't care about you, I did. And somehow that made it okay to take me for granted. I felt my throat tighten. Wanted to argue, to defend myself, to explain that he was wrong, that I wasn't like that I was a feminist who valued emotional labor and mutual support But the examples kept coming. Him helping me move while I complained about Marcus not texting back. Him listening to me cry about Derek for the 10th time, offering advice I never took. Him picking me up at 1 a.m. from a terrible date in Queens, then listening to me rant the whole drive back while he stayed quiet, supportive, present. What had I done for him? I'd been there. I'd been supportive. Had I? Or had I just been there when it didn't require anything of me? When I was already out, already available, already in the mood to hang out? I needed support during hard times, I said, but it sounded defensive even to my own ears. That's what friends do. Support goes both ways, Michael said. And for you, I was only valuable when you needed something. I wanted to argue, wanted to flip the table, wanted to call him unfair, wanted to storm out and text the group chat about what an asshole he was being. But I couldn't. Because somewhere underneath the defensiveness, underneath the hurt pride and wounded ego, I knew. He was right. I'd rather stay single than be used, Michael said quietly. The words took a second to land. Single. He was making a parallel, me saying I'd rather be alone than with someone who didn't value me. Him saying he'd rather be alone than in a friendship that did the same thing. Michael, come on. My voice cracked slightly. We can talk about this. I didn't realize you felt this way. I know you didn't, he said. That's part of the problem. He stood up, pulled out his wallet, left a $10 bill on the table for his untouched coffee. Wait, I said. Are we done? Is this it? He looked at me for a long moment. I tried to read his expression, anger, hurt, regret, but all I saw was exhaustion. I don't know, he said finally, but I know I'm done being the person you only call when you need something. Then he left. I sat there for a long time, staring at his coffee cup, watching the foam dissolve into the liquid. My own latte had gone cold. Around me, The cafe continued, people typing on laptops, couples sharing pastries, the barista calling out orders. I pulled out my phone, opened the group chat with Melissa and Jenna, started typing. OMG, Michael is being such an asshole, you won't believe what just happened. I stopped, read the words back to myself, then kept typing. He basically accused me of being a bad friend because I asked him to come to Amanda's wedding, like apparently I'm using him? After 7 years of friendship, he decides to have a problem with it now. So fucking passive-aggressive. I hit send, felt justified. Melissa responded immediately with the angry emoji. Jenna sent, "Men are so sensitive, OMG." That felt better. Validation. I wasn't crazy. Michael was being dramatic. I went home, tried to distract myself with Netflix, but I kept replaying the conversation. The way he'd said, "I'd rather stay single than be used," like I was some villain in his story. My phone buzzed. My brother Ryan, calling. I almost didn't answer. He only called when Mom made him. But I picked up anyway. "Hey," I said. "Hey. Mom said you seemed upset at brunch last week. You good?" "Right." Mom had been there when Melissa showed me Derek's engagement post. I'd played it off, but apparently not well enough. "I'm fine. Just Derek being Derek. He got engaged." "Damn, that's fast." "Right?" I felt the indignation rising again. 8 months, like our entire relationship meant nothing. Ryan was quiet for a second. "You okay, though?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I was going to bring Michael to Amanda's wedding to show Derek I've moved on, but Michael's being weird about it." "Weird how?" "Just..." He said no. Said he doesn't want to be used or whatever. Made this whole thing about how I'm a bad friend. I could hear the defensiveness in my own voice. "It's bullshit. I've never used him." Another pause. Longer this time. "Sis," Ryan said carefully, "when's the last time you hung out with Michael when you weren't asking for something?" My stomach dropped. "What?" "I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm genuinely asking. When's the last time you texted him just to see how he was doing?" We hang out all the time. We get coffee every week." "And you talk about what?" I opened my mouth, closed it. Thought about our Tuesday coffee meetups. What did we talk about? My job, my dating life, my problems with my mom, my... "That's what I thought," Ryan said, not unkindly. "Look, I've met Michael a few times. He seems like a good guy, and I've watched you treat him like a free therapist since college." "That's not fair," I said, but my voice sounded weak. "You called him at 2 a.m. last month, crying about some Hinge dude who ghosted you. I know, because I was there visiting you, remember? You were on the phone for an hour while I sat there watching you completely unload on him. Then you hung up, said Michael always knows what to say, and went to bed. Did you ever ask him if he was busy, if he had work in the morning?" "He should have said something sooner," I managed. "Maybe. Or maybe he hoped you'd figure it out on your own." Ryan sighed. "I gotta go. Just think about it, okay? Actually think about it." He hung up. I sat on my couch in the apartment Michael had helped me move into. My brother's words echoed. "Derek treated you like you were disposable. You've been doing the same thing to Michael. He must be defending him just because he's a man."